So today's content framing question is, what do I notice and wonder about Alvin Ailey? And your craft question today is, why is research important? Alright, so this is what your classwork looks like for today. And so there are three main parts to it. The first part is you're going to watch the following video. The link is going to be in the description of the YouTube video, so you must go to YouTube when you are watching the lesson, and you need to click on that video and then scroll down to play Revelations choreographed by Alvin Ailey. And I want you to write down at least 3 notices and 3 wonders that you have based on the video that you watch. So that's kind of like your warm-up for today. So you can pause this video now and head over there to watch that 2-minute-ish video excerpts from Revelations, and I want you to notice and wonder what you see there. Okay? All right, so today, as the content framing question tells us, we are going to be studying Alvin Ailey, and so here is a photograph of Alvin Ailey. And a choreographer is someone who creates dance movements, someone who creates dance movements, for lack of a better word, but also like a dance routine. Okay. So this is what your notice and wonder chart looks like for today. The book is longer than our other books, so it is going to be a long-ish read aloud. But I do want you to first look at the picture walk and write down some notices and wonders, just looking at the illustrations and what you see. If you can read the text before I start reading the book out loud to you. And then here I want you to write down what you notice and wonder based off of the read aloud. So again, you are going to be looking at the picture walk first, then the read aloud. However, I am also going to include a review slide of what we've learned or some skills we've picked up so far in 3rd grade to help us with our notices and wonders. Okay? All right, and then here we have so this is the first part, watching the video, the dance video, and then reading Alvin Ailey together will be the second part. And then I'll explain this last part after the read aloud. All right, so here's your first picture walk for Alvin Ailey by Andrea Davis Pinkney, illustrated by Brian Pinkney. So now for some review of skills that we've learned so far in 3rd grade that will help us with our noticing and wondering before you get to our read aloud. The first one is using context clues to clarify the meaning of new words. So I want you to use the information and the details around the word that you may not know the definition of to help you understand what that word could mean. Using illustrations to add meaning to a text. We know we can interpret non-literal language, also known as figurative language, to understand an author's ideas. We can also notice how an author arranges important events in a text, thinking about the order of events as well as what events the author chooses to highlight, as well as looking for repeated ideas, language, or illustrations to determine what's important in the text. Alvin Ailey by Andrea Davis Pinckney, illustrated by Brian Pinckney. (1942) True Vine Baptist Church. It seemed like the hottest day ever in Navasota, Texas, the small, dusty town where Alvin Ailey and his mother Lula lived. Blue-black flies buzzed their songs while the church bell rang. Alvin and Lula worshipped at True Vine Baptist Church every Sunday. When they arrived for services, Alvin slid into his usual seat in the first row pew. There, he could watch his mother sing in the gospel choir. And Lula sure could sing. Her voice rose clear and strong as she sang the morning hymn. The men at True Vine dressed in dignified suits. The women showed off wide-brimmed hats and fanned away the Texas heat. Some cuddled powdered babies, others hugged their Bibles. True Vine's Reverend Lewis delivered a thundering sermon. The organ rang out, followed by a bellow of tenors singing, "Rock of my soul in the bosom of Abraham." Sweet sopranos and tambourines joined the rousing refrain. Rock of my soul in the bosom of Abraham, rock of my soul in the bosom of Abraham, rock of my soul in the bosom of Abraham, oh, rock of my soul. The congregation made a joyful noise. They stepped and swayed with the warmth of the Spirit and raised their palms in revelation. Alvin stomped his feet and clapped his hands so hard they hurt. Oh, rock of my soul, he sang along. Alvin was going to miss the music and rejoicing at True Vine Baptist Church. Days later, Alvin rode a creaky locomotive headed west. He and Lula were going to try life in Los Angeles, California. Times had been hard in Texas. There weren't many jobs. Lula wanted a better life for Alvin. She told him there were more opportunities in the city, more ways to make a decent living. Alvin stared out his window while the train rocked and lurched its way through the dry Texas land. Life in the city would be so different. 1945 to 1947, Los Angeles. Los Angeles was a flashy town. Lula found plenty of work. Most mornings, she left their apartment on East 43rd Place before sunrise, and she didn't return home until the sun was long past setting. Alvin didn't mind, though. On Saturdays and after school, he liked spending time alone, exploring the city streets. He strolled Central Avenue, where nightclubs such as the Club Alabama boomed with the sound of big band jazz, swinging music that spilled out into the street, while the musicians inside rehearsed for the evening show. Alvin especially liked downtown Los Angeles, where the lights on the theater houses reflected off the pavement. There was the Orpheum Theater, the Biltmore, the Rosebud, and the Lincoln. Outside each theater, a blinking marquee announced the latest show. Pearl Bailey performing live, Billie Holiday, A Night of Blues, Duke Ellington and his band. The men who owned the theaters stacked handbills on their stoops. Each handbill announced coming attractions. Alvin collected them all. He dawdled along the sidewalk and spotted a handbill showing a black dancer, something Alvin had never seen advertised before. The paper said, "Coming soon to the Biltmore Theater, Katherine Dunham and her dancers in Tropical Review." Alvin looked carefully at the picture of Katherine Dunham, a beautiful dancer fluttering exotic ruffles. Katherine Dunham and her dance troupe were one of the few traveling shows in the world with black dancers performing dances from Africa, Haiti, and Latin America. Alvin was curious. As he tucked the announcement into his pocket, he noticed Ted Crumb, a skinny boy with spindly legs, hanging out at a stage door nearby. Ted knew all kinds of things about dance. He hoped to dance on stage someday. Ted told Alvin that Katherine Dunham's afternoon show was about to start, and they could see dancing like they'd never seen before. Alvin and Ted crept down the alley that led to the Biltmore stage entrance. They kept quiet and out of sight. With the stage door open just so, they watched the splendor of Tropical Revue. Katherine Dunham and her dancers swirled and lunged to the rhythms of West Indian drums. They were famous for Babiana, a spicy Brazilian routine, and for a sizzling number called rumba with a little jive mixed in. Alvin's soul danced along when he saw Katherine Dunham's style. Alvin nudged Ted. "What is it that they're doing? What is that?" he asked. "That's modern dancing," Ted said. "Watch this." Ted tried Katherine Dunham's Babiana. Alvin slapped out a beat on his knees and followed Ted's lead. Slowly, Alvin began to move. He curled his shoulders from back to front and rippled his hands like an ocean wave. He rolled his hips in an easy, steady swivel, dancing with an expression all his own. Alvin moved like a cat, smooth like quicksilver. When he danced, happiness glowed warm inside him. Dusk crept over the city. The streetlights of Central Avenue winked on one by one. Alvin made his way back to East 43rd Place. That night, Alvin told his mother he'd seen black people performing their own special dances. It was a show Alvin would never forget. 1949 to 1953, Lester Horton's Dance School. More than anything, Alvin wanted to study dance. But when Alvin arrived in Los Angeles, not everyone could take dance lessons. In 1949, not many dance schools accepted black students, and almost none taught the fluid moves that Alvin liked so much. Almost none but the Lester Horton Dance Theater School, a modern dance school that welcomes students of all races. Lester's door was open to anyone serious about learning to dance. And at age 18, Alvin Ailey was serious, especially when he saw how Lester's dancers moved. One student, Carmen de la Vallede, danced with a butterfly's grace. Another, James Truitt, made modern dance look easy. But Lester worked his students hard. Sometimes they danced all day. After hours in the studio, droplets of sweat dotted Alvin's forehead. He tingled inside, ready to try Lester's steps once more. At first, Alvin kept time to Lester's beat and followed Lester's moves. Then Alvin's own rhythm took over, and he started creating his own steps. Alvin's tempo worked from his belly to his elbows, then oozed through his thighs and feet. "What is Alvin doing?" one student asked. "Whatever he's doing, he's sure doing it fine," two dancers agreed. Some tried to follow Alvin's moves, but even Alvin didn't know which way his body would reel him next. Alvin's steps flowed from one to another. His loops and spins just came to him, the way daydreams do. Alvin danced at Lester Horton's school almost every day. He taught the other students his special moves. In 1950, Alvin joined Lester Horton's dance company. Soon, Alvin performed his own choreography for small audiences who gathered at Lester's studio. Alvin's dances told stories. He flung his arms and shim-shammed his middle to express jubilation. His dips and slides could even show anger and pain. Modern dance let Alvin's imagination whirl. All the while, Lester watched Alvin grow into a strong dancer and choreographer. Lester told Alvin to study and learn as much as he could about dance. He encouraged Alvin to use his memories and his African American heritage to make dances that were unforgettable. 1958 to 1960, Blues Suite, Revelations. Alvin's satchel hung heavy on his shoulder. His shoes rapped a beat on the sidewalk while taxicabs honked their horns. He was glad to be in New York City,
where he came to learn ballet from Carol Shook and modern dance techniques from Martha Graham, two of the best teachers in the world. Alvin took dance classes all over town, and he met dancers who showed him moves he'd never seen before. So many dancers were black. Like Alvin, their dreams soared higher than New York's tallest skyscrapers. Alvin gathered some of the dancers he'd seen in classes around the city. He chose the men and women who had just the right moves to dance his choreography. Alvin told them he wanted to start a modern dance company that would dance to blues and gospel music, the heritage of African American people. 9 dancers believed in Alvin's idea. This was the beginning of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. On March 30th, 1958, on an old wooden stage at the 92nd Street Y, Alvin and his friends premiered with Blues Suite, dances set in a honky-tonk dance hall. Stage lights cast moody shadows against the glimmer of each dancer's skin. The women flaunted red-hot dresses with shoes and stockings to match. The men wore black hats slouched low on their heads. They danced to the swanky swank of a jazz rhapsody. Alvin's choreography depicted the blues, that weepy sadness all folks feel now and then. Blues Suite stirred every soul in the room. Alvin was on his way to making it big. Word spread quickly about him and his dancers. Newspapers hailed Alvin, radio stations announced his debut. An even bigger thrill came when the 92nd Street Y asked Alvin to perform again. He knew they hardly ever invited dance companies to come back. Alvin was eager to show off his next work. On January 31st, 1960, gospel harmonies filled the concert hall at the 92nd Street Y. Rock, 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 rock my soul. Oh, rock my soul. Alvin clapped in time to the music the same way he did when he was a boy. But now Alvin rejoiced on stage in Revelations, a suite of dances he created to celebrate the traditions of True Vine Baptist Church in Navasota, Texas. The audience swayed in their seats as Alvin and his company gloried in their dance. High-stepping ladies appeared on stage sweeping their skirts. They danced with grace and haughty attitudes. Alvin and the other men jumped lively to the rhythm, strutting and dipping in sassy revelry. Revelations honored the heart and the dignity of Black people while showing that hope and joy are for everyone. With his sleek moves, Alvin shared his experiences and his dreams in a way no dancer had ever done. When Revelations ended, the audience went wild with applause. They stomped and shouted. "More!" they yelled. "More!" Taking a bow, Alvin let out a breath. He raised his eyes toward heaven, satisfied and proud. So now I'm going to read the back blurb. So taking a look on the left. By exploring the African American cultural experience through dance, Alvin Ailey changed the face of American dance forever. The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, AAADT, was one of the first integrated American dance companies to gain international fame. 2 years after the creation of Revelations, Mr. Ailey's company performed in the Far East, Southeast Asia, and Australia on a tour sponsored by the U.S. State Department. Since Mr. Ailey founded his company in 1958, it has performed for an estimated 15 million people in 48 states, 45 countries, and on 6 continents. In 1965, Mr. Ailey met Judith Jamison, a vibrant young dancer whose talent and energy inspired him to create Cry, a piece that honors the struggles and triumphs of Black women. That 1971 work is now a popular Alvin Ailey classic. Mr. Ailey was born in Rogers, Texas, on January 5, 1931. During his life, Mr. Ailey received many honors. In 1982, he received the United Nations Peace Medal. He was awarded the Kennedy Center Honor and the Handel Medallion in December 1988. Mr. Ailey died on December 1st, 1989 in New York City. Also, this is a photograph of Alvin Ailey in January 1979. Today, under the direction of Miss Jameson, the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater still mesmerizes audiences everywhere. Mr. Ailey's dance tradition continues at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Center, an accredited dance academy in New York City, where boys and girls study ballet, modern dance, and tap dance. The Alvin Ailey Repertory Ensemble, the resident company of the school, is a troupe of young dancers who perform throughout the United States.
So for this last part of your classwork, I want you to practice writing a thesis statement. And so here you see this introduction paragraph format again. Don't worry about the graded or shaded areas, which is, or grade or shaded areas, which is the hook and the introduce. I just want you to focus on this part. And so the thesis statement. So your writing prompt is, what inspires the artist Brian Pinckney? And so we are going to be practicing how to research, because it's super duper important as third graders that we start to learn how to do this, and to make sure that we're looking at resources online that are accurate and that are factual, especially during this time of 2020, of when there's just so much available to us online, and we want to make sure that we're really looking at facts, right? And so we can find information about Brian Pinckney through books, through the internet. We can ask someone, we can watch a video. And so what I want to challenge us to do is we don't actually we can't go to the library. If we were still in school, I would love for us to go to the library together for a trip. But what we do have is the internet, and as well as YouTube. So I'm going to link a video in the description box in this YouTube video of an excerpt, which is a portion of a video from the 2013 National Book Festival. And I want you to listen and watch from minute 640 to 1026. And you'll be able to listen and hear what sources of inspiration Brian Pinckney identifies. And so that is your essential idea right here, right? Because our question is, what inspires him? So you can write here the source of his inspiration and 2 supporting points that relate to that source of inspiration. Okay, so how does that source of inspiration inspire him, right? So again, remembering that a thesis statement consists of a main idea or an essential idea along with 2 supporting points. So you don't need to write in complete sentences. You can just write down the answer to the prompt and then the 2 supporting points that you found through your research. And that is it for today's lesson.